welcome to the September Altenew Video Hop, and today let's make together a fall card. For that I will be using a set of matching products. So this is a 3D embossing folder which gives you a lovely design of mushrooms, acorns and foliage, and there is a matching stencil set that is going to make your life easy while you try to color everything. This is matching perfectly with the design on the embossing folder, so you end up having coloring and dimension. Now, a lovely trick for fall cards to give that warm and cozy feel is to start with craft cardstock. So you can definitely recreate the same idea on white, but it's going to be nice and bright, while by starting with a craft cardstock you end up with a very cozy vibe. So I just ran it through my die cutting machine and you can see the beautiful embossing. I mean, this is stunning. And I'm going to go ahead and use the stencils to add some coloring on my panel. Now I'm using my stamp wheel not for stamping but for just holding down my paper and the stencils. It is very easy to align. I'm using the stencil that is marked with number 1. I'm just going to place it on top of the embossed images. Once I'm happy with the alignment, I'm going to press, so this is going to hold down the stencil, and I'm going to bring in my blending tools. Now I have here a little case where I keep all my mini blending tools, and this is how I store them. Nothing special or fancy at all. I just like to have everything together and bring them from my drawer on top of my table. Another tip that I can give you about the blending brushes is that I don't have a blending brush for every one of my ink pads. I just use one for every color family. So this one is for all my greens, and I will show you how I will use all those ink pads with the same blending brush without contaminating anything. By the way, I have to admit that I never ever wash my blending brushes. They are just like that since I got them, and they work just fine. So every time I'm switching to a new color, I will try to make sure that I leave the cap on screen so you can see which color I used. But as always, you will find everything that I used linked down below in the description. Also in the description, you will find details on how you can enter the giveaway, since this is a video hop by Altenew. And also make sure to check the next video on the hop. Now you can stop here if you like, or if you want you can add a little bit of shading without moving that stencil. So I'm going to bring in the darker shade and just add a little bit at the base of the leaves. Notice that I keep on using the same blending brush, but because I'm going from lighter to darker color, I don't have to clean up my brush at all. Now I'm going to move on and add some color on the mushrooms. And here I'm using another blending brush that I use for this color family, for all the reds. And then I'm just going to do a little bit of blending again by adding shadows with a slightly darker color. Now adding the shadows isn't necessary. You can just go ahead and recreate the card really quickly by adding a color flat. Once you take off the stencil, you will see that it's not going to end up flat because you already have that dimension from the embossing. So it really gives a different look. But I'm just used to it. I just like to add shadows before I lift the stencil, so I always go for that. Now I'm adding a little bit on the base of my mushrooms. Again, I switched to another color family blending tool, adding some shadow with a darker shade. And here I use the darker of my ink pads of brown with this blending brush. So I want to make sure that it is nice and clean before I contaminate the lighter ink pad. So all I do is just brushing it out on a kitchen roll, and now it is ready to go. No problem at all, you don't have to wash it. Now I move on from stencil to stencil, adding some color, and you can see here I just use the corner up at the top so that I can easily align each stencil when I just lift it off. And pretty much I used the same colors again and again to create my lovely composition. Absolutely adore it. And now let's turn this into a card. I'm using my blending tool and I will go around the edges and add a little bit of that brown to make it look warmer, and it kind of gives that vibe of a vignette. I am going to do all the 3 edges and then I'm going to bring in my paper trimmer and just chop off a little bit from the bottom. This is going to turn this into a panel that is not as big as my A2 standard card size, leaving a little bit of a border at the top and at the bottom. Now I want to add some shine on my card and some splatters because I absolutely love them. So I chose to use these 2 colors from the Altenew metallic watercolor palette, and I'm just going to add some splattering here and there. Again, you don't have to do that, completely optional if you don't like splatters, but I feel like it gives something extra on every card. After all, this card is not going to have any extra elements popping on top. It does have dimension from the embossing and the lovely blending, so I'm just going to leave it as it is pretty much. For my card base, I went with a dark green cardstock that's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I'm inking it up with even more green ink to make it even deeper. So this is going to match perfectly with the leaves and the vibe that I have on my main panel, and then I can stick it like that, but I wanted to add a little bit extra shine, so I'm bringing in this glitter cardstock. I'm going to cut out 2 strips and I'm just going to add them on top and at the bottom of my panel, just to kind of separate it from the background, green background. So I'm sticking everything together and I do have foam tape at the back. I cut it twice. Now let's add some final touches. I need to add my sentiment. For that I just went so the black hacks create kind of a shadow at the back. And now you can finish it off by adding some gems, pearls, whatever you have. I decided to go with my contour liner and add some white dots on my mushrooms. And that was the card for today. I hope that you had fun, that you got inspired. Don't forget to check the description for all the details on the giveaways and also find the next stop on the hop. Thank you all for joining me.